Welcome to the Township of Whitewater Region Regular Council meeting for Wednesday, March 1st at 4:49 p.m. Just before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge that we're having a small internet challenge. NRTCO has confirmed that they're down at this point in time for the community, and therefore we don't have internet. So you may see some of the presentations amended a little bit. The information will all be available online as soon as the internet gets back up, and the video is being recorded so it can be posted online as soon as that's available. Perfect. Just before we call to order, we'll call to order now after we get rid of this bug, at 4:50 p.m. And I'll note that Councillor Bell is not available for us today. He was going to join us online via Zoom, and without the internet, he cannot attend. However, we still have quorum. So I'll start with our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And next is our prayer, so can you please rise. Almighty God, we give thanks for the great blessings which have been bestowed on and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. Guide us in our deliberations as township councillors and strengthen us in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. Grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to preserve the blessings of this country for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Amen. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is disclosures of interest. Just looking for any disclosures of interest from council members present. None are noted. Next item is public meetings and presentations, and clerk, there are none, correct? Okay. Item number 5, announcements. Good. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a report again from my last 2 weeks, and then we'll go around the table and everybody can share their own announcements. Over the period of 15 to 28 February, I attended 10 meetings on behalf of council and asked Councillor Tabbert to attend one, which was an OPG presentation on the spring melt and the impact on the Ottawa River, due to a conflict in my schedule. I also attended the Whitewater Firefighters Honours and Awards Ceremony with a number of members of council on the 18th of February. And it was an incredible event, and I just want to thank all of our firefighters again for their dedication and service to our community. Within these 10 meetings were interviews conducted to select our new treasurer, an 11-hour County of Renfrew budget workshop that was held over 2 days, and a meeting called by our Member of Parliament, Cheryl Gallant, with all the mayors. I want to offer some insights about the budget workshop. The County of Renfrew spends approximately $54 million a year on salary and operations and $43 million a year on capital, just to give you some perspective. Some of the highlights of that budget workshop. The Algonquin Trail build-outs continue, part of an aggressive year build, partially subsidized by grant programs and partnerships. It is an essential part of building on experiences for residents and visitors in our community. Residents and visitors alike have to enjoy where they are and continue to reside there or to return. So an important part of our recreation portion of the community, as well as tourism. After a review of increased service levels in paramedic services, the county has agreed to add a 24/7 ambulance later this year. Service levels have been maintained in community services. That includes ongoing support for 1,020 rent-geared to income housing units and continued support for subsidized childcare in Ontario Works. We've had the introduction of new service delivery models in public works. This includes in-house engineering and operations staff in-house enhancements. Essentially, that is where they're hiring engineers rather than contracting them out, and the business case showed that we'll be able to save quite a bit of money over the coming years. Trails, shifting some reporting divisions of the trails, and a GIS enhancement to the planning division, all fostering smoother workflow and some savings. Staff were also requested to and suggested a number of recommendations that revised previous council mandated budget requirements to keep the levy change to a minimum and we're able to make some concessions where possible. The county as a whole is growing, or grew over 2022, and the new assessment growth that is going to be generated from this growth, the new assessment that's going to be generated from this growth, will be invested into the long-term capital asset management plan and offsets levy increases. We're continuing to invest in long-term care, a capital commitment to continue with the butterfly model of care, which is delayed due to COVID. In essence, the residential property tax impact will be a $9.88 increase per $100,000 of assessed value across the county. The median residential property value in Renfrew County as a whole sits at around $203,000, meaning that a typical homeowner will see an impact of about $20.06 for 2023 on the county portion of their tax bill. Even with these decisions, this nominal increase was achieved through a reduction in our contribution to reserves at the county level. So with the size of reserves, there is some flexibility given there. And there'll be further discussion about county long-term financial plan and the asset management plan later on in the year. And you'll see that apparently in the fall. The upcoming 2 weeks will have 2 areas of focus for me. First, we're continuing to meet with our neighboring mayors and CAOs to explore the opportunities we can to work together. And second, we're going to be doing a delegation to the County Development Planning Committee to seek their support to expand the Renfrew County Trail Network. In addition, there are other meetings with local businesses, Pembroke Regional Hospital and ConnectWell. I also wanted to update you on the delegation plan. I mentioned at last council meeting. The Deputy Mayor, the CAO, and the Clerk have an outline of possible delegations, and we're working through how best to schedule it. Once that's worked out, you will each have a better idea of how you may be asked to support the delegations. And lastly, I just wanted to shine the light on one department this week. Now, February has been a month of snow days from a parent that still has a kid in school. Okay. And extreme temperature swings. I wanted to thank our Public Works Department for the work they do to keep our roads safe and clear, for clearing our villages and the town sites of all the snow that's building up. I know that March has much more snow in its forecast, but I just wanted to highlight their work to date. That's all I have. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just a couple of announcements here. As Lead of Human Resources, we as Council are pleased to announce the following 2 new hires. We are excited to welcome Curtis McGonigal and Margaret Moran. Curtis McGonigal has accepted the position of Treasurer. Curtis is a Whitewater Region resident that has 9 years of financial experience and serving as the Township of Laurentian Valley's Deputy Mayor for 4 years and serving as an accountant and audit supervisor with Welch LLP Chartered Professional Accountants. Curtis is a graduate of Algonquin College with a business diploma and has completed fulsome series of AMCTO courses, including the Municipal Accounting and Finance, Municipal Tax Administration, Employment Law, and Human Resources certificates, to name a few. Curtis will be in his new role on March 13th. And we are happy to announce the Township has successfully recruited Margaret Moran as our Seniors Liaison Coordinator, which is a contract position commencing on March 6th. Margaret is a graduate of Carleton University with the BA of Honor in Sociology and has worked in positions with both the federal and provincial government on health programs as well as community economic development. So please extend a warm welcome to Curtis and Margaret when they join the team. Thank you very much. That's all the announcements I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question, Deputy Mayor. Can you confirm Curtis's current position that he's in right now?
Right now, I do believe he is Deputy Treasurer in Laurentian Valley.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Tabbert.
I just have 2 announcements. I attended the online meeting of the Ontario Power Generation for the Eastern Ontario Focus on water management in our region. I started to take notes, but it got to be too interesting, so I just stopped and listened. But there's a tour coming up, which I'm interested in taking. And I'm also going to announce that I am a member of the Tour to Whitewater, which is back on this year, and it's scheduled for July 15th. So I'll be liaisoning between the township and the committee.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Moore.
Yes, last night I attended the first meeting of the 100th anniversary of Beachburg Public School. The next meeting is not till the 28th of March, so there'll be more to follow. Anybody out there on TV land who would like to come and sit in on the meetings, who may have a vested interest in the school going back a number of years, please join us at Beachburg Public School March 28th. This Friday at the Cobden Ag Hall, there's a trivia night, and I do believe it's the Fair Board that's putting that on. And Saturday in Beachburg, St. Andrews is 1 to 3 is a crokinole party. And March 5th, the Sunday this weekend, is breakfast at the Ag Hall for the curling club. It's quite a mouthful. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Trim.
Yes, I've got a couple of things. First of all, the Winter Carnival, annual Winter Carnival in Westmeath is on this weekend, sponsored by the WDRA, and you can get the schedule of events and activities on from their website. However, I just want to be sure to mention that there's a breakfast, a big buffet breakfast Saturday morning. For me, that's the most important part. But anyway, yes, that's this starting Friday evening and Saturday. Also, I want to make a shout out to the Building and Planning Department. As you know, they held 2 workshops to promote the new online procedure to get a building permit, to apply for a building permit online. Wanted to promote that and introduce that to the community. So they had 2 workshops, one for the contractors in our municipality, and I attended that one. It was well attended with 24 different contractors attending. I found it very, very well done. It was informal, but very informative, and it was very appreciated. I stayed and talked to some of the contractors after, and they thought that this was something that it was really beneficial. It also was an opportunity to introduce staff. So Alex Benzie was there, and so was Debbie Reddy, which because she's not out in the field, people don't get to know what's going on in the background so much, so she was there. Then Monday evening, I believe it was, yes, there was a second workshop, and this was for the general public, and coincidentally, 24 people attended that also. And I didn't attend that one, but I was talking to people who did afterwards, and they found it really great. They got all kinds of information. They were treated on an individual basis. They were asked what their issues were individually, and came away from there quite pleased and satisfied with the evening. And I know people are busy, but it might be an idea to hold this again another year. Maybe not for the contractors, but for people who are going to be planning to build their new home. So really great. I'm hoping that through you, Mr. Mayor, that the CAO has an opportunity to pass on the compliments that I've received. Thank you.
All right, thank you. CAO is taking note. I'm glad to hear that they were very successful. Thank you. And Councillor Olmsted.
Well, I must lead a boring life because I have absolutely nothing to report. Next time.
And I screwed up because I remember last time we did this, I promised I was going to start on this side of the room after the deputy mayor, and I didn't. So March 15th, you can hold me to it. You and Mark will get a chance to.
Well, those were all very tough acts to follow, so maybe we can start this side.
Perfect. Yes, Councillor Moore.
I'd like to go back to what you said. You were talking about the county and an upswing of new tax base, et cetera, and affecting the levy. in the next couple of years. Will we be included in a breakdown of that, or would it just be county in general?
They receive the same report that we receive from MPAC. And from their county-wide, I believe it was just over 2%. I'd have to go back and verify. We know our share of it. I believe that the treasurer has that information. And I can't remember if he presented it to us. I think he did present it. Was that correct, CAO?
I'm not 100% certain if he presented the difference in numbers, but I think it's been that increased assessed value has been incorporated in the 2023 budget. So we've accounted for that additional assessment based on the tax. Yeah.
I don't remember the percentage, but I remember him talking about 33 million in terms of the assessed value increase.
Okay, thank you.
It's good. Excellent. We'll move on to the next item. Find my agenda. It's old school today. Everything's on paper.
The internet might be working though, so you might want to try it. I feel it might be working. No.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our reports. 6.1, a routine disclosure policy. The recommendation before us is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region pass bylaw 23-03-1582 to enact the routine disclosure policy. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. And I'm turning this over to the clerk for presentation.
Yes, thank you. So a little bit of background, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Acts provides individuals with the right of access to certain records that the municipality has in custody and control. It also provides that municipalities may establish a routine disclosure policy. This policy allows for I read that already. Okay, a routine disclosure policy would improve public accessibility and transparency. It will also set out principles and procedures for releasing records. Right now, we have no clear regulations on how we go about doing it, only about what's set out in the Act, but it doesn't establish staff regulations. So by enacting a policy, it gives everybody the same steps to follow in order to get information. Plus, in the back of the policy, there's a quick, and I guess I probably can show you, there's a little quick step on what documents we can give without asking for the Freedom of Information request. So if there's any questions.
We'll let you find that and we'll just go through that list.
That's all slow. You want to go through the list? This list here, it just shows, so the type of record, who's responsible for it, and if there's conditions that are required before we pass out the information. Perfect. Just quick guidelines. And unsure, always ask the clerk.
Excellent. Thank you, clerk. I'll go to the mover first for any questions or comments.
Thank you. No, I went through and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I really don't have any anything at this time. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Perfect. And any other members of council, questions or comments on the policy before us?
Neil has 3.
Sorry?
Neil has 3.
No,
Mayor
I
has
have none.
3. Oh.
I don't have any questions. No, you caught me there. I was like, who has 3? Okay, excellent. Well, then we'll put this to question. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Item 6.2, the Municipal Emergency Response Plan. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region pass bylaw number 23-03-1580, being a bylaw to adopt the Municipal Emergency Response Plan, and bylaw number 23-03-1581, being a bylaw to establish the Municipal Emergency Control Group and the terms of reference. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tabbert, Councillor Trim, and back to the clerk.
So this is to deal with the 2 bylaws. It's going to adopt our municipal emergency response plan, and it's also going to adopt the municipal control group terms of reference. It's going to establish the group and the terms of reference. There was just a few changes to the municipal control group because we're with the shift of employees, it shifted some of the titles, so it was kind of just a cleanup. But the Municipal Management and Civil Protection Act provides that every municipality should develop and implement a management plan, and council should adopt it by bylaw. The Municipal Emergency Program Group is required to conduct an annual review and make recommendations or revisions if necessary, and report back to the province with it. The group has been working hard to finish this project. It was a big project, and I'd love to thank Julie Parr and Julie Butella for all their help on this, and the mayor too. Thank you very much. Our group. It was a big task, but we do feel that we have a plan that's pretty successful, I hope, and it's a working document too. Just to let you know, every year when we go to do an annual report, we'll check to make sure everything's flowing good. If we need to make any kind of changes to it. The main change to the plan was to update it to an MIS system. The MIS is the incident management system, and it's a standardized approach so that if we're working with Red Cross, they use IMS. It makes it so that we all understand the words, the language, the lingo. It makes it an easier document to follow because we all understand it's the same language throughout. December 18th, the MECG met for a tabletop exercise. We did a flood scenario, and it was just to evaluate. This year, we just evaluated the flood plan. It was pretty good. There was a couple recommendations, so we updated the plan to meet those needs. This year, going forward, hopefully another scenario to update a different one of the other sections of the plan. During 2022, the group met many times to go over the emergency plan, the flood plan, the HIRA, and the critical infrastructure list. We also worked on a wildfire plan, which is also added to the new emergency response plan. The Capital Sector Field Officer, Haston Lamb, reviewed, every year we have to send a compliance into the province. We send it to Hastings, he goes through it and either he approves it or disapproves it and sends it to EMO for final approval. He did review our compliance report and it came back great. He's recommending final approval from EMO management, and official letters will be sent to us in the spring. So if you have any questions.
Can I just get you to zoom down to the first members of the MC? Are the members listed there?
In the other bylaw, which I attached.
Okay. Just so it's clear that we can review who's in the control group.
It's a massive document. It's pretty big because what I did, and if you see, I scrolled past it, but in the bylaw, so what I did, we have the emergency response plan, and then the other plans like the wildfire, the emergency or the evacuation and reentry, the flood, and the pandemic plan are all annexes to the main plan. So it is a big document, but this way, by doing it this way, we can tweak annexes without tweaking the whole bylaw.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect.
Is that it? No, gone too far. Is it maybe? Oh, it's probably in the bylaw section.
Okay.
Sorry, I can get it.
Okay, well, we'll take questions now, just while you take a look. I'm going to start with my mover first, and I'll come to the... Yeah. Councillor Tavern, any... No questions. Good. Councillor Trim.
Yes, no questions really, just a couple of comments. I'm not going to pretend that I went through the 128 pages in detail, but I did skim through and I noted that for this exercise or plan, we're still using the ward system, the 4 wards that we used to use for voting purposes. I noted that, and there's probably a reason for it. It's just something I noted. And the other thing I just want to remind people of is that the alternate emergency operations center is the hall as part of the recreation center in Westmeath. The primary one is this building right here, and the alternate is the one in Westmeath. So those are just a couple of things I noted going through when I was quickly going through it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Questions or comments from anyone else? Yes, Councillor Moore.
I noticed in there that, in that diagram, both bylaws, which were different numbers, were mentioned. Is there going to be a bylaw passed for each, or is there going to be two bylaws under one? Just thinking that if somebody tries to look it up, they may not be able to find it if it's listed under a previous bylaw. You catch my drift?
No.
Yeah. Under the actual bylaws, on item 10 on the agenda, they're listed individually.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, I apologize. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good point. Good. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, so, we had previously passed an EMS, so does that mean that one gets repealed now? This one supersedes that document? Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
So the bylaw does notice the emergency response plan does say that the old one will be
Great.
repealed.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Yes, Councillor Moore.
Sorry. Is this done annually, or is this done with new council?
Good. I'll just let clerk.
So we review the plan, the group reviews the plan every year. It does not need to be revamped. It was revamped this time because now the new IMS is in place. Our old response plan didn't have the IMS, so we revamped it, but we should only have to, if, maybe tweak it, not necessarily replace it.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Excellent. If you can just take an opportunity now to talk through the membership on the control group, please.
Oh, the control group, so this is
The committee, sorry, yeah.
yeah. So when we meet to discuss, no, that's the control group. Okay, yeah, sorry. This is the control group. This is who's going to be sitting in on emergency meetings. The head of council as our lead, and the alternate would be the deputy mayor. The EOC command, and that is the Emergency Operations Center, is the CAO. Sometimes in the plan, we also have it as director. It's the same role, the same capabilities, just depends on the incident. Also the CAO, just so you know. The Emergency Information Officer, we have the CAO as well. Again, this may change if we get more employees, but and then the alternate would be the Community Development Coordinator. Liaison Officer is usually the CEMC, and for our backup, I have the Fire Assistant, or we have the Fire Assistant, the Safety Officer, Fire Assistant, and the CEMC would be the backup. The Operations Chief would be the Fire Chief. Operations usually are the people who are the first on scene, and they're kind of directing or coordinating more so the staff on the ground. So in an emergency, it's generally the fire department that's out and about, so it makes sense to have the fire chief as the lead for that, and then his chiefs would be the alternates. Planning chief would be the superintendent of public works. He's usually the one, or I shouldn't say that position is usually the one where the men are on the ground and they're maybe blocking roads or directing traffic. So to have that position and doing that, again, makes sense. And then he worked closely with the manager of public works, so he would be the alternate. Logistics is the higher end of the planning, so it would be determining what is needed where. So I have the manager of public works there, and then the alternates, it would be the superintendent, finance chief, treasurer, and then alternate deputy treasurer, a scribe, and we always need a scribe at all meetings, so I have a finance clerk to cover that position.
Perfect, thank you. Now, just for the purpose of the public, if they're wondering, Councillor Tabert's our lead for emergency management and protective services. Can you describe her role in emergency management?
The lead for the protective services would probably fall under more so the program committee piece. And that would be helping shape the plan. And yeah, it's more so with the programming, the plan itself, than being feet on the ground.
That's right. Policy development.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's good. So just so the control group controls the emergency, and the organization is established there as a reference point, but it will change based on the emergency. But the person building the policy, that falls on to Councillor Tabbert, working with staff to be able to propose that to the control group and to council.
If I can just add something.
Yeah, please.
So the control group, when I went over the control group bylaw, is not being revamped because when I looked over it, there was no change. It seemed like a good document, so I didn't have to make any changes to it. So that's not coming forward, but there was changes in the not so much the organizational plan, but the member group. So I had to bring this one forward to make those changes.
Perfect. That doesn't trigger any other questions or comments from anybody? Excellent. So we will call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Excellent. Next item, 6.3, road assumption, Lacqua Bay Road. So the recommendation is that the council pass a bylaw to accept, assume, dedicate as public highway and name the lands described as part 1 of Plan 49R-20289. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? The mover is Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Trim, and this is going to our CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So there's about 4 parts in that motion to accept it. We accept the transfer of these lands. We would assume them in their current condition, dedicate them as public highway, formalizing them within the Municipal Act as a public thoroughfare, and then naming them as Lacqua Bay Road. So there's 4 parts to it, but it's all within the same bylaw. So essentially what's happened here is following the flood of 2019, when the township made improvements to this section of road, it was determined that to better provide a safe visibility coming past the causeway, there was a transfer of land with Mr. O'Brien and the township to provide for a better field of sight coming through there. But at the same time, Mr. O'Brien had found out that this portion of road was held in his ownership, but we had this forced road over it. So essentially is a forced road is essentially described as a road that exists by the township that does not follow the lots and concessions, the former road allowances that existed in the past. And in most cases, they're forced through to avoid obstacles like a bedrock, or maybe in this case, to lengthen the passage to the peninsula there, if you will. So the lawyers for Mr. O'Brien, which is the Quintal Professional Corporation, are seeking the official transfer of this portion of property, of roadway, to the township. So they've surveyed it. They've engaged a surveying company to survey it. The width of the road meets our minimum standard, and staff have reviewed this, and we're certainly acceptable to receiving this portion of road. It'll basically formalize this section of road, but at the same time, it'll divide the lands on each side of the road. So the owner will have 2 separately conveyable lots as a result of this transfer. So pretty straightforward. The more recent one that we've seen on this was maybe Brooms Road with Mrs. Maloney. I'm not sure if it was this council or the previous council, but very similar thing where they surveyed the road, formalized the transfer to the township, and we've assumed it. So no change in the road itself, but we're just the legalities around it. So staff are supportive, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Moore, any comments?
Just one. I can remember this happening and everything around it, but the only question I have then is the previous road that we let go, is that wasn't in our name, that was also in the owner's name, or do we have to do a transfer there as well?
I think that would be a different section of road. It's not the one that's in question tonight, but as I understand it, we modified the bend, if you will, it was, I think, in our name, and we did a land transfer. We did a switch, if you will, with the landowner in that case.
Okay, that answers my question. Other than that, I have nothing else. Thanks.
Perfect. Councillor Trim?
I'm just wondering, this section of Forest Road is part of a larger section of Forest Road, at least previously. So from the Brumley line to where this begins, that's all forced. I'm just wondering if, over time, that has been surveyed and registered in the name of the township.
I would say that I don't have that answer for you.
Fair enough.
An example of what Councillor Trim's referring to similarly is Rapid Road. What we've seen recently is, as residents want to sort of formalize the road, we've seen them surveying it portion by portion. So that might be the case for Lacqua Bay from Bromley line into the peninsula, but I'm not certain what sections we've acquired at this time.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Trim. And just to note, there are significant amounts of forced roads within the township, and this is a piecemeal operation that's addressed as people want to seek clarity in the ownership or wish to develop and need to have a municipal road in order to develop off of. So those are the two driving factors related to this. Is there any other questions from any member of council? Oh, yes, Councillor Trim.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to CAO, do we ever take the initiative to say you were to find out that from the Brumley line to this is still a forced road and it's not been deeded to the township? Do we ever take the initiative to clean that up, so to speak, or do we wait till there's a request or it's needed by an adjacent property owner?
I don't think, in my experience with the township, that we've taken the initiative to do that, just by the sheer cost to hire the surveying and engaging with the property owners. I would think that in a situation where we are making improvements to the road and that would necessitate us surveying it and formalizing it, that might be a situation when we would do that. But in the interim, I'd say it's a condition of development or the proponent seeking some formalization. I would say that that's probably the approach we should take now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Makes it clear. Councillor Tabbert.
Okay, just from what you said then, so we're taking care of roads that aren't our roads then?
So we are taking care of roads that are our roads. So a forced road is one that has existed, and again, I don't have the clear, here it is. So I don't have the legal response for you, Councillor Tabbert, but a forced road is one that's existed for a very long time. And through the different provincial acts, we as the township have the authority to allow the public to use it, to maintain it. Yeah, so essentially those two points. So in layman's terms, so it's a publicly used existing roadway on private land. Usually to get around obstacles to prevent a road from being built on the surveyed public road allowance. A legal opinion would state that we have full authority to allow the public to use that road, and it is our responsibility, the township, to maintain it. We have the onus of liability for the road as well, for its maintenance and its upkeep. So it might be on private road, but we have the full authority under the legislation to have the road, allow the public to use it, and to maintain it.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Tabbert? So, there are a number, like I couldn't hazard a guess, but if a road is not straight, 9 times out of 10, it's forced. Rapid Road, the end of Bromley Line, La Passe Road, Government Road. So when they surveyed, like the CAO said, when they surveyed, they said this road on the map is going to go straight, but on reality, it can't go straight. and people just created it. And at one point, the province said, stop. I don't know what point that was. These are now called forced roads. Municipalities are responsible for them, even though you don't own the land that they drive over. So as development occurs, we take the steps to properly gain ownership of it. That is very expensive from a surveying perspective, and that's why it's only done piecemeal when an individual needs that to be done legally to take ownership of a property. Shoot.
So could it go the other way, where the property owner finds out that he owns part of that road, and he's just gonna say, you can't use it anymore then?
No, the province has set in legislation that it has to be, it's publicly, it's been a public road for many, many, many years. It is now a public road.
Okay, and so once the owner asks for it to be transferred over to the township, then that happens?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Legally, it transfers, but by legislation, I think, is that correct? By legislation, it exists. CAO, if you can.
Just a point of clarity is, they don't submit they submit a request, but the proponent, the owner, is responsible for the costs, just to make that clear. They've paid for the surveyor, they're paying for the legal to have this transferred to the township.
So what's the benefit to doing this then? I mean, if it's gonna cost the landowner, why doesn't he just leave it the way it is?
Good. CAO.
I'd say one of the benefits is that he now has two separately conveyable lots. So whereas before they kind of worked, while there was a road there, he couldn't sell them as individual parcels. So that's probably one benefit, and probably the next benefit is that it's sort of finalized, if you will. There's no more existence of a forced road. It's legally by bylaw been assumed by the township and all that.
So just, because we're going to have to take this discussion offline after, but from a bank perspective, you want to get a mortgage on it, you need clear title, you need clear access off a municipal road. So an individual couldn't sell property on a forced road because it legally wouldn't exist, and therefore it's very difficult to get a mortgage and all that stuff. So it's a cleanup as you go situation. But great questions, because the members of the public I get the same phone calls on this all the time. But if there is more, we'll get you to go offline with the CAO. It's good. Does that trigger anybody else with questions? Awesome. We voted on this one already, clerk? No. Okay, no last questions. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda is notices of motion. We're hearing motions that when notice was given last council meeting. The two that we're going to hear tonight, 7.1 is a bylaw compliance. The recommendation, be it resolved that the Township of Whitewater Region directs staff to prepare a report to council to explain the process of reviewing complaints and clarifying the procedures for compliance and penalties. Now, I have a mover here as Councillor Olmsted. Can I get a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor? Great, and then the floor will go back to Councillor Olmsted for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the reason that I brought forward this notice of motion, I've had many questions from the public, not just since this council is formed, but in previous council as well, as to what are the procedures to following bylaw. And so rather than continuing to explain, sometimes properly, sometimes improperly explain, I think it's time that the council reviewed the policy. I don't think there's probably a whole lot of need for changes in the policy, but I think it's a good practice to maybe review it and inform the public of how bylaws work in our township. And the second part of that is administering of punishment. If there's punishment to be made, if somebody willfully does not comply, how is that handled as well? So I just like the public to be, and council as well. I think with a new council, it's a good time for all of us to learn how that's administered. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not at this time. Thank you, though. Yeah, it's good.
And open to the other councillors. Any comments or questions on the motion before us? None seen. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. So this will now go on the CAO's to-do list. And from a government services, correct? In terms of prioritizing how it fits into the other parts of his work plan, I'll leave that between the deputy mayor and the CAO, and it will come back to council when it is appropriately prioritized. Is that fair to say, CAO? Perfect. Good. So it's up to you. Good. 7.2. Next item, the next motion that was tabled or brought forward last council meeting was from Councillor Trim. The recommendation is, be it resolved that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region refer the above matter to the Municipal Emergency Program Committee to examine options in the event power is lost at 119 Sinton Street, the alternate emergency operations center. For the sake, usually I can just say the last portion of that motion. I can't in this case because it's worded, referencing everything above, so I'm going to read it from the start. Okay? So the whole recommendation, whereas the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, which is a provincial statute under which all emergency management activities are conducted in the province of Ontario, and whereas Section 2.1, Sub 1, every municipality shall develop and implement an emergency management program, and the council of the municipality shall, by bylaw, adopt the emergency management program. And whereas the emergency response plan was designed and developed for the corporation of the Township of Whitewater Region to assign specific duties and responsibilities and to direct the actions of key officials in the event of an emergency. And whereas the emergency response plan identifies 119 Sinton Street as the alternate emergency operations center, therefore be it resolved that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region refer the above matter to the Municipal Emergency Program Committee to examine options in the event the power is lost at 119 Sinton Street, the alternate emergency operations center. The mover I have is Councillor Trim. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tabbert. And Councillor Trim, back to you for discussion.
Yes, I realize that this could have been part of our strategic plan discussions. However, I wanted to place emphasis on this. There's going to be an awful lot of things discussed during those planning sessions. And I didn't want this to get lost, so to speak. This, in my mind, it's very important. And it just so happens, coincidentally, that we were talking about emergency response already tonight. And so that's why I asked if I could bring this as a motion forward at this time, rather than wait. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. And my seconder, Councillor Tabbert.
I just have a question to ask to them. Should we not put that it's in Westmeath, or just leave it at 119 Sinton Street, Whitewater Township? Or
I'll
just
ask.
mention the hall that it's in, or something besides just an address somewhere in the municipality?
I'll defer to the clerk.
So it references the emergency plan, and the plan states that it is in this 119 is in Sinton Street, and this is only a motion to bring it forward to the committee. So I don't know. I mean, if it's okay with the mover and seconder, we can certainly put Westmeath in there.
Good. So that it goes back to you. Would you like to have it inserted?
I don't think it's necessary. If it refers back to the plan, I'm okay with it.
Perfect. Good. Is there any other questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Moore.
Seeing as how this is going to the committee for investigation, just wondering, and what has happened in the previous flood with the use of the fire hall, if it would be advantageous to have at least electricity for lighting in that building as well, if they both could be connected to the same generator per se.
Okay, good question. I think we'll hold that. Unless CEO wants to make a comment? No?
No, I mean, we'll look at the external power sources generally amongst all of our facilities that are part of the emergency management and in other situations. Thanks.
Perfect. Any other comments or questions? Now, I'll just add one. We had a power outage first weekend in February. Coldest day of the year. And the first thing that jumped into my mind was, if we needed to create a warming center, where could we create a warming center? We didn't have the only building that we have available on generator backup is this building. Sorry, Councillor Trim.
No, I thought you were finished.
Okay, so the same would apply in a summer in a cooling situation or another emergency of some kind. Councillor Tabbert can dream these up with the clerk. So I think it's an important issue for us to address in terms of identifying that requirement, prioritizing it, of course, because when we apply resources to it, we can't apply it to everything, but we need to be able to know what the priority is and what the requirements are. So I think it's a reasonable thing to have brought forward now, Councillor Trim. It may come up again in our strategic discussions, but I think for now it's good to have it on the table. Good. Councillor Trim, did you have something to add?
I was going to comment, I shouldn't have been too quick. You were finishing your thought. I was going to remind people that the summers tend to be getting hotter too. And we may be needing cooling centers. Cooling centers as much as we need warming centers. I don't know the protocol, so I'm just asking. I could ask offline, but can I be invited to those discussions when this comes up with the committee?
I see no reason. I would leave that up to the committee chair, the lead, which is Councillor Tabbert. So you can discuss that offline with her.
Thank you.
Good? Good. No other, and Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, maybe just a comment. And I know we're talking about generators here, and I think everybody's probably picturing a stationary generator, something like what's at the town hall here. There is some new technology out there where you can put like a generator link, so it's actually I don't profess to be an electrician, but so in the panel you can actually have your panel ready to go to hook up portable generators. So I think that could be an option to look at as well, where a panel is ready to go. So as we know, we have a number of buildings in our region. So I'd like a portable option looked at as well that can be transferred from building to building. So, for example, a stationary generator like the one that's on the town hall here, I would think that'd be north of $100,000 for that outfit, probably more, where you could probably buy 3 or 4 very large portable generators and transfer them wherever they need to be transferred to in the event of an emergency. So rather than just this one building, maybe we can cover many bases at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And the farming community, which I know Councillor Tabb, the PTO generators are the same thing. You just set it up for hookup and you can hook up wherever you need to. It gives us the flexibility to address whatever the emergency is and where it is. I think it's a great point. The first step has to be to identify the requirements, prioritize them, and then to figure out the best way to satisfy them. So I think that's going to give Councillor Tabbert lots of ideas. Fair? Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Again, Deputy Mayor will manage the work plan on that piece. Okay. Next on the agenda is item number 8, adoption of minutes, February 15th, minutes 2023. The recommendation is the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular and closed session minutes of February 15th, 2023, understanding that the closed session minutes remain confidential. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Mover, Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Trim. Any questions or comments on this? No, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Correspondence. Item 9, First item is 9.1, the Farmland Forum flyer on the Ontario Farmland Trust. Any questions or comments? Item 9.2 is the Community Development Grant that was emailed to us from Carmen Gould, Regional Development Advisor. I'll just make a comment to this. So it's, if you're familiar with Jumpstart, it's a Canadian Tire sponsorship of essentially programming, athletic or sports programming for children. It's along that lines in partnership with them and open to the community members. My suggestion here is that we forward this information on to our 4 rec associations, athletic associations, Borca and Muskrat Minor Hockey. Make them aware that this is available for them to apply for. Does anybody else have any comments or questions on it? Yes, Foresters Falls, Beachburg, Westmeath, and Cobden. Those 4 associations, plus Borca, plus Muskrat Minor Hockey. If there is another one, maybe Councillor Bell might have another one on his list that he might want to recommend, but or if someone else thinks of something, please advise the CAO or the clerk. Good. Item 9.3 is the 2000.
You're good, sorry.
Oh,
Councillor Trim?
Councillor Trim, yes.
Yes, I'm thinking slowly tonight. Snake Line, there used to be a rec association, Snake Line, maybe that's over. Okay.
Crossroads, still there. Yeah, still there.
Oh,
It's called Crossroads.
oh, okay. Thank you.
We'll put it on the website too.
That's a great point. They're not on my agenda, nor will they be on Councillor Bell's. So if we can just make sure he's aware of Crossroads as well. Okay, good. Thank you, Councillor Trim. Next one, 2022 municipal election statistics. Clerk or CAO, is there anything you wanted to add on this? No. Any comments? Questions from councillors? No.
Yeah, the only comment is less than 1 in 3 people in Ontario voted. 32% voter turnout, which is incredible.
But we are increasing our transparency, and Whitewater region will have a good turnout. Next item, 9.4, support for the Eganville Service Ontario application from the Township of Bonnechere Valley. A letter that was provided to us from Mayor Murphy. They're seeking to have a Service Ontario centre reopened in the village of Eganville. And they just included us as a copy on their letter application. So, does that generate any comments or questions? None? Okay, good. Next item on the agenda is 10 bylaws. We have 6 bylaws before us. The recommendation is be it resolved that the bylaws listed on March 1st, 2023 agenda be taken as read and passed. A mover and a seconder, please. The Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Any discussion or comments on any of these 6 bylaws? None. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion's carried. Item number 11 is closed session. Clerk, there's no closed session? None. And then adjournment. Remind me, do I need to get it?
Just close, tell the time.
Can't see.
48, 5:48?
5:48 PM. The meeting is adjourned.